My purse was stolen, find it or I'll report you to the police. It was 2017 and I was working for a, now closed down, popular UK chain department store in the fashion accessories department, women's bags, seasonal items, shoes and occasion accessories. I remember it was a Sunday afternoon, our busiest day/time, and for once my department wasn't understaffed, so I was going around tidying the department. A woman comes up from behind me and starts talking 300 miles per hour, taking me by surprise. She gets about 15 seconds in, then goes, "Oh, forget it, I'll ask someone else," and storms off to the tills. She hadn't even given me enough time to comprehend anything, but I figured I was probably better off with her going elsewhere. I continued to tidy but stayed near the tills. I couldn't make out everything being said, but I got bits, and a member of security came out to talk to her and he seemed annoyed by the conversation. Eventually the woman stormed off. I went over to my colleagues at the till and got the details. The lady claimed that the moment she walked into the store someone grabbed her purse off of her and ran off with it. She said she wasn't so worried about her money, but she had train tickets that cost a lot for a trip the next day that she couldn't miss. She wanted us to look at the security cameras and find the thief. My colleagues contacted security, who said they couldn't do that. They said that in order to check back the footage they'd have to stop recording, and they can't do that in case there was an emergency and they missed it. No idea if this was true or not, but that's what security said. The woman wasn't happy, so security came out to explain, but she got more irate. Security said they would review the footage after the store shut, and if they saw anything would pass it on to the police. The woman was not happy and said she'd report us to the police for not helping. She was asked for her details in case anything showed up, but she refused, saying if we weren't going to help her, what's the point? I went back to tidying. About 10 minutes later I was tidying around the sale purse stand and one was on the floor. It looked a bit rough, but some of the sale purses had been there years, so maybe it was an old one. I picked it up and felt something inside it move. I opened it up to see it was clearly someone's purse. I take it to the till and show my colleagues. It had a few notes in it, coins, and cards. They check the ID and confirm it's the lady's, complete with train tickets. As there was still notes in it, it looked more like it was dropped, rather than stolen. Though weirdly, where I found it on the floor was further from the entrance, where she had claimed it was stolen, than our till, so her story didn't fully add up, but anyway. One of my colleagues took it and walked around all 3 floors of the store looking for the woman but couldn't find her. It was taken to security to add to the lost and found. I assume this woman never got her purse back and missed her trip, or had to pay a lot to replace the tickets. But if she'd have calmed down and given us a phone number, she'd have had her purse back within half an hour. Refund me because I didn't win. I worked the customer service desk at a grocery store. Recently the Powerball was at almost $2 billion. I had a gentleman come to my window and purchase almost $1,200 in tickets. He made a joke I've heard a million times over: if I don't win I get my money back, right? He even said this while laughing and smiling. I gave him the generic polite smile and he went on his way. They draw the numbers the following day and I hear that someone in California won. I show up to my shift and it seems to be a normal shift. That is until the gentleman comes back. Despite that one of my coworkers has offered him assistance, he said he wanted to talk with me. I finished with the customer I was with and waved him over. Before I could greet him, he slammed down his pile of tickets, recipient included, and proceeded to tell me, "Okay, Missy, I didn't win anything. You said if I didn't win I would get my money back, so I am here for my full refund." I was slightly taken aback by this. I was trying to see if he was being serious or not. After a moment I realized he was. I attempted to explain to him that regardless of winning or not, all sales on any lottery tickets are final. He started screaming, "No, no, no. You said it yesterday. If I didn't win I get my money back. Now refund me before I call the cops and tell them you stole all my money." I tried to calmly explain to him that I understand that he is upset that he lost, but no one had stolen his money and this is just how the lottery system works. I could see he was getting more upset and not wanting to hear what I had to say. This is where it became one of those I don't get paid enough moments. He had started getting more and more upset, so he decided to start knocking over a nearby display of candy and glass soda and beer bottles while shouting about how we had stolen his money. I had enough of this and called for both management and security. Management ended up calling the police while security detained him, and her ended up causing more than $350 in damages. It was definitely an interesting one. Sir, it is my first day. Several years ago I, then 19M, had the mispleasure to work at a home improvement store, basically a big warehouse that people could come shop in. My place in it was deliveries, aka get things together for a customer to come up and get at a later date, as well as taking calls for large orders and organizing a truck that would show up every morning and night to take bulk items to delivery sites. The job wasn't great, but I went for 3 months without major issue before leaving for a better place. The one instance that stands out amongst the 3 months is not later on, but is from the very first day that I worked there. A bit of backstory to my first shift. At this company they had an interesting way of training you. Namely, they didn't. Oh sure, they had us watch a series of videos on safety and general ways to interact with a customer, but there was nothing specific to what I personally would actually be doing. The only training I had was from the guy I was replacing telling me how to use the PDA phone to check what orders needed and how to use the information shown to locate items. That way I didn't have to know off the top of my head where things were. This meant that while my job took me to every aisle and outside to lumber and brick, I didn't ever have to memorize locations, and I certainly was never trained on item locations for customers. This leads to my first shift on the floor, where I was way out of my depth but trying my hardest. I was able to get most of my work done without being disrupted, and the few times that customers asked where items were, thinking that since I had a uniform I would surely know, they accepted that I was new and appreciated me directing them to someone who could help them properly. Not this guy though, not this one guy who had an air of him like all the workers were beneath him. It is almost the end of my first shift, and I am happy to be going home. I am up on a ladder getting some items from the overhead storage in an aisle when this man comes up and asks where some specific pool item was. I do not recall which it was now. Of course I did not know, but I did know that earlier in the day I had picked up some pool supplies in the outer yard, not far away from where we were. So of course I tell him, sorry I am not sure since I am new, but I believe they are at location, you should check there. He proceeds to just stare at me. I ask him if he needs any other assistance, to which he replies that he does not, and asks my name, which I give him, not thinking much of it. Then he wanders off towards where I indicated and I don't think anything more of it. That is until right at the end of my shift, right as I am finishing filling some info out at the main customer assistance area, which is also where the computer I use it located. Right near the end I hear my name mentioned and I look up to see the man talking to my manager right near me. When he sees me looking he just turns to me, looks me dead in the eye, and yells, "You have an attitude problem," pointing right at me. How dare you not know where the item I needed was? You should have walked with me straight to it, not sat up on your ladder twiddling your thumbs doing nothing. I was incredulous, and all I could stammer out was that it was my first day on the job. He then proceeded to say that that was no excuse and that I was, insert various insults to my intelligence that I won't repeat, and that I should be fired for incompetence. This was my first time in retail, and I was absolutely dumbfounded that people would act like this in public. In the end my manager got him to leave, and told me that I shouldn't let it get to me. Clearly it did, as I still remember it years later. Don't be that guy, and always treat employees well at retail jobs please. Woman refused to be proved wrong. Diamond specialist here. Had this woman come in to get her ring cleaned and polished that was not for my privately owned business. Told her if she wanted it cleaned I would need to take it in the back to the high pressure steam cleaner to get all the junk out of it, lotions, conditioners, makeup, daily wear and tear blah blah blah. Said she was perfectly fine with that as I told her it could take up a few minutes. Come back out with a brand new looking engagement ring, because it was actually clean. Automatically asks for a jeweler's loupe to inspect her diamond. Graciously hand her one and said no problem. Here starts the thorough inspection of her diamond. Huff and puff multiple times, flip the hair, turn the loupe around, there is no difference between sides on a jeweler's loupe. I ask her if she would like me to show her how to use the loupe. She snaps at me and says clearly she knows how to use one. She absolutely did not. Distance from the eye to loupe is about 1 inch, distance from the loupe to piece is another inch, give or take your depth perception. You switched my diamond, she proclaimed. I continued to say, excuse me? She claimed I switched out her diamond, to which I'm baffled at this point. Demanding to speak to authority, I said you're speaking to one. Saying it looks wrong and this wasn't the diamond she purchased, so on and so forth. Tried reasoning with her until I had to get very blunt. I'm assuming you don't know how this works, for me to switch out a diamond, and a marquise shape at that. I would have had to know your exact dimensions of the diamond before you came in here. Your diamond isn't from here, but I said I would clean it for free for you. Now you're accusing me of switching out your diamond within 2 to 3 minutes when it would have taken me at least 10 minutes to even try and find a stone that had your same exact dimensions. Because if it didn't I would have had to change the head of your diamond to hold a different size stone, which requires a jeweler's torch, putting on a new one, and then cleaning your ring to perfection to dip into the rhodium. All of that alone would have taken me a solid 45 minutes. Rhodium is $20,000 plus per ounce right now, and if you think I'm going to contaminate a batch of rhodium on your ring to maybe profit $1,000 on switching out your stone is absurd. Kindly take your ring back to where you bought it from to have them confirm with you that indeed it's still your diamond, and do not ask for me to service your ring ever again. She huffed and puffed and walked out. Got a call later from her husband apologizing, saying that he heard the story and it was her diamond. Today a customer broke his item in half and threw it on the floor because he couldn't return it. I work in a second-hand store, not in the US, and we have a policy that we don't do returns or exchanges. We have notes all over the store saying that, and the receipt clearly states it too. Today when I was working the register, a man in his late 40s came up to me with a vinyl record and wanted to return it because he already had another copy of it at home. It had cost him a little less than €3 when he bought it from us. I said, "Unfortunately we don't do returns or exchanges," and he exploded. The look on his face was fascinating. He got completely red, eyes widened, his jaw dropped to the floor, and smoke would shoot out of his ears if it could. At first he asked what we would do if the record was broken, because all of a sudden the record had a scratch at the end, even though just a second ago that wasn't why he wanted to return it. I answered that we are unable to try the vinyls before we sell them and can only go by the quality of the record itself. That apparently just made it even worse, and he yelled, "You are making me so fucking angry. How about this then?" And broke the record in half in front of me. When it didn't completely break, he then did it again, over his leg this time. Then he threw it on the floor and stormed out yelling about how much we sucked.